Welcome to SHA, the Sound Healers Association, founded by Jonathan Goldman in 1982, bringing education and awareness of the use of sound and music for healing and transformation. SHA features presentations by founding pioneers in the modern sound healing field, and we have a sound healing directory allowing you to list your work or find practitioners and teachers. There's a monthly online meeting, a blog, a vast resource of articles, and much more. SHA, the Sound Healers Association, is dedicated to bringing harmony to the world of sound.
Okay, here we go, and we're jumping in now. And again, I'm Steve Farrell with Humanities Team. I'm here in Boulder, Colorado. I live near my dear friend Jonathan Goldman and his wife Andi, and it's my pleasure to be here just to introduce Jonathan and Andi as this program starts. So, and of course, this is a Sound Satsang, and it's a monthly program now that Humanities Team is really grateful to be producing each and every month with Jonathan and Andi. So thanks for being with us. I think you're going to have a fantastic time. Let me just want to read a brief introduction here as we get started. So Jonathan and Andi Goldman are a powerful pair in the world of conscious living and sound healing. Jonathan is an internationally recognized authority, pioneer, and author in sound healing. Andi is a licensed psychotherapist who utilizes holistic treatment and sound healing. Both are highly respected leaders in the sound healing and spiritual music community. Andi and Jonathan have co-written 2 books together, Chakra Frequencies and The Humming Effect. And again, I'll just share, when we came out a moment ago, Jonathan and I were sharing that sound healing is really taking off as it should, because it is, as we're creating conscious living in the world, sound healing is a big role. It's an incredibly useful device. And you're looking at the man here, Jonathan Goldman, who got this whole thing started, was called to it at an early age, and hooray, thank God he was, because look where sound healing is today. And my pleasure, Jonathan, to turn this over to you.
Steve, it is a blessing. Thank you so much for that introduction. And I want to thank everybody who is here. Come on in and join the festivities. It is the Autumnal Equinox, and this is a Sound Satsang. I'm Jonathan Goldman. I want to thank all the people who have been really contributing to the co-creation of this, including like Steve Farrell and Humanities Team, Garth Catterall is assisting, Nasiri Suzanne from the Sound Healers Association. If you haven't joined the Sound Healers, check it out. Alex Sims from Healing Sounds, and my beloved wife, Andi, who's going to be joining me later on tonight. It's good, just a wonderful night, and I can feel the energies just continuing to coalesce and build. Tonight, our focus is on sound, and this, again, as a Sound Satsang, we are a community that works with sound for learning, for discourse, and also to encode our beloved Gaia Matrix, or planet Earth, with sacred sounds. Of course, we're going to be doing a global sound healing. In fact, the program tonight is broken up into basically 3 different sections. The first one is basically me talking about the subject, and then Andi's going to be joining me for that and doing, if you like, an astrological assessment of this autumnal equinox. Then we're all going to basically be taking part in a co-creative effort of a guided global sound meditation, a global Om for personal and planetary healing. And finally, I'll be taking a question or 2. They've been submitted before, and I think it's pretty good. I haven't checked out what they are, but I'm going to find out shortly. But first, I'm going to talk about our unique vibratory essence. But in order to do that, I want to just for a moment review the 4 pillars of sound healing. The first one is We are all unique vibratory beings. What is the takeaway of that? Everything is in a state of vibration. Very, very important. Wow. The next one is intent is important. That the takeaway from that one basically is that my understanding that it is not only the frequency of a vibration that creates its impact, but also the intentionality. So the consciousness of the person making and receiving the sound will really affect the outcome of the sound. Tonight we're going to be talking about the third one, which is we are all unique vibratory beings. So we're going to be talking about our unique vibratory essence. I was realizing a little bit before we began this that the purpose for this, if you like, teaching of our unique vibratory essence is like, if you like, the next level. If we learn that everything is vibration, but also that this vibration is affected by our thoughts and consciousness, then the next thing is to understand that we are actually all unique vibrations, and therefore there are some very, very important, if you like, purposes for this. One of them is simply so we do not get stuck in the phenomena of single frequencies being the be-all and get-all. As more and more people turn into sound healing as a modality, there's more and more interest in frequency, which is great. But there's also a lot of, shall we say, misinformation or information that is probably not correct about the purpose and use of the different frequencies. And this is something I thought we would like talk about. And as we do this, we then realize that we can empower ourselves and trust ourselves to experience how a sound works and resonates with us. When we understand that everything is vibration, there are two basic ways that sound affects us. One is called psychoacoustics. That's the sound goes into our ear, into our brain, affecting our nervous system, our heart rate, our respiration, our brain waves, and also going into our body. And that's called vibroacoustics. Sound goes into our body, affects us down to a cellular level. And here's this quote from the New York Times, February 8th, 1988. Sound, shaped into a dazzling tool, can make, break, or rearrange molecular structure. So if you can do that, we are talking about a very powerful sound. But the question is, hey, how come sound doesn't seem to work the same way for everybody? Why is this? And I realized that was my first big learn, was when I started gathering this information for Lesley University for a master's thesis that I was working on. And I realized that different scientists and different spiritual masters were working with different frequencies, different tones, different mantras, all sorts of different things. How could this be? And that inner voice said it is not only the frequency of the sound that creates its effect, but it is also the intention of the person making, receiving the sound. Bingo, got it, light went over my head. That's great. That is a helpful explanation. But then a third thing began to emerge as I worked more and more with sound. And this third thing simply was another explanation for why a particular sound, a particular frequency or whatnot might not work for everybody. And that is that we are unique vibratory beings. When I would begin a workshop, oftentimes with Andi, and we would ask people, how many of you are allergic to penicillin? And usually the number was around 20%. Sometimes it would go up as high as 25%. Sometimes it would be down to 10%. But a significant number of people would have some sort of adverse reaction to penicillin. I thought, well, this is a great metaphor, because if everything in the universe is in a state of vibration, then penicillin is a vibration. It's perhaps a series of frequencies that work together to create this pharmaceutical that for 80% of an audience is therapeutic, but for up to 20%, it can be toxic. This is huge, because if you think about that as, if you like, a metaphor for anything, it seems to hold true. Whether it's a pharmaceutical, a nutritional substance, a sound, whatever, you're going to get, at best, if you have 80% of a audience experiencing positive effects, that's brilliant. But you can definitely, expect some people not to have the effect that something is touted at, which is great, but just, understand that this is something that I like to say there is no magic frequency, meaning there's no frequency that works for everyone all the time. That's number one. At least I haven't found one in all my years of working with frequency. There's no frequency. And also I have found, I'll talk a little bit more about this later, that I've, sometimes used wondrous frequencies or composite frequencies, which is a real major key of sound, composite frequencies, to do fabulous healing work. And, sometimes they would work phenomenally, even on myself, using myself as, if you like, my own, sound laboratory. I would use these things and this would work great. It healed me, hallelujah. Thing came back, healed me, hallelujah. Third time, didn't work. Why would that be? And I'm sure that we've all kind of had that experience of either, our body assimilating to a certain substance and it not being as effective, or perhaps something else is going on. Perhaps we're going through a phenomena that I call frequency shifting. Now, before I get into that, I'd like to suggest that this whole idea of we are all unique vibratory beings, it really involves the fact that we need to honor our own unique response to sound and the laboratory of our own experience. So what we experience with sound, whether we're listening to it or feeling it vibrate us, what we're experiencing is real. And it's great to have expectations, it's great to have an intentionality, but sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's just not going to be in our, as my wife Andi says, it's not going to be in our frequency and it won't resonate correctly. So sound is visceral. We can feel it. We can feel the effect of it. It's also etheric, if you like, and phenomenological, and it's great, but it does affect us on a visceral, physical experience, and we need to honor that. And I think one of the really important things about that is that by honoring it, we can empower ourselves to go, hey, I really like this. This works for me. And also honor other people. You don't like this? That's great. It doesn't mean that we're not friends or whatnot. It just means we are all unique vibratory beings. I think it's also really important that if we understand this, we understand that having a cookbook mentality of using sound is great. It's a great way to begin, but I would like to suggest that if you're interested in working with sound, it's good to see what other people are using and how they're using it. But once again, you may find that something that is totally unexpected might work for you. My friends, I spend sometimes a month putting together these talks, and then at the last minute, something comes in. I'm going to tell you a little something that just came in. It was my birthday, probably in my early 30s. And for some reason, I had decided for years before that if it was my birthday, I was going to be depressed. Don't ask me. It was just it was like a thought form that I had encoded upon myself. And it was right. I didn't mind being depressed, but it was my birthday. And one birthday, a friend of mine who's my karate partner he was also a piano tuner. He played pretty well, and he came into my house without, just opened the door. He came in. I was lying on the living room couch, kind of depressed, and he said, "How you doing?" I said, "Okay." And he sat down at the piano. And he started playing Rhapsody in Blue. Now, that was a song that I used to love as a kid. I think it was before American Airlines or United or whomever took it over as a theme song, and I hadn't heard it for a really long period of time. And all of a sudden, I listened to Rhapsody in Blue, and I began to feel very elated and filled with just this fabulous energy of wonder. And what was so interesting is that the, depression phenomena lifted from me and it never returned, at least going on my birthday. But also, if I had been asked what music would be effective for removing depression, in a million years, I could have never suggested Rhapsody in Blue. So once again, sound is magic. Sound is magic. There may not be a magic frequency, but sound is magic. And so also be open to the unexpected. And therefore, just because somebody says this is healing or this is good for you or this is not good for you, check out for yourself. If it works for you, it's real. If it doesn't, honor it too. And really understand that different music can affect us differently at different times of the day. And different music is useful for different types of activities. We're not going to use the same sort of music for relaxation that we use it for exercising. We're not going to use the same sort of music if we're trying to have a dance party going, if you're trying to have a subtle conversation, something to keep it going. So there are different, if you like, uses of music, and really see what works for you. But I will suggest, for example, that if you're trying to be really relaxed, oftentimes, not always, because there's a phenomenon called the ISO principle, which means that you want to meet the person where they are at. So if you're real stressed out, sometimes playing music like this is really good, but then you begin to bring it down. But oftentimes, if you're trying to go to sleep, it's best not to play really high tempo music, because our heart and our nervous system will entrain, will resonate, will begin to operate with the rhythms of the music. So be conscious about that one. And also understand that, here's another story. But I was going to suggest also understand that if you're trying to exercise, you don't probably want to be playing any really deep, relaxing music, because literally your nervous system and your muscular system will be fighting the rhythms of the music. One time I was teaching down in Boulder, and I am in Boulder now. I was living up in the mountains at the time, and I got out of teaching, and there was a snowstorm. And I lived at the top of this mountain, and I had to travel up this road. That was one of the 10 most dangerous roads to travel in the United States. And I started going on there. Normally, I would listen to some really chill music and just enjoy the trip. But this time, boy, I wanted to have the adrenaline pumping. I wanted sonic caffeine. And for me, sonic caffeine meant some really up-tempo Rolling Stones music, pumped loud, because loud music will also trigger the fight or flight response. With the windows open, it was cold, but I wanted to be really, really on there, because driving the snow around curvy roads, I did not want to be just chill out, and that would not have been healing. So on a level, if you can see everything in its place, I like to say that any music, depending upon the time, the place, and the need of the individual, can be therapeutic. It depends upon the person. I'm reminded that in the 1930s, a man by the name of Carl Seashore wrote a book called The Psychology of Music, and literally created the field that used music in a psychological motive, if you like. And at the time, he didn't hook people into brainwave phenomena or MRIs or whatever you're looking for. He simply had these things called semantic differentials that were like surveys that people gave. And he basically would ask people what music they liked and what music they didn't. And he did hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these. And most of the time, you had about a 50-50 split of people liked this type of music, people didn't like this type of music. And the one piece of music, I remember the most popular music that he found was John Philip Sousa, Stars and Stripes Forever, where about 70 to 75% of the people found it exhilarating. But you also found another 20% of those people who found it depressing, and 5% just didn't like it. So then, you once again, that 70 to 80% is about as much as you can hope for. And if you're getting that, how cool is that? I want to suggest too that there are all sorts of different ways that we resonate and vibrate. In traditional medicine, there are all sorts of different aspects of our body type. There are different blood types, A, AB, O, negative, positive, all these different things. And I know different doctors who will prescribe exercise, medications, nutritions based upon this phenomena of blood types. In Ayurvedic medicine, you have what's called the doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Not Kafka. Franz Kafka was a brilliant writer, though. And you have these 3 different body types. There again, you get the recommendation for different types of diet, different types of all sorts of different things. So once again, different body types. Can these affect our vibrational rate? Probably. And you think about music, and in music you have 12 notes in a musical scale. But that note, if somebody says the note C, what is the difference between the note C and the note C sharp? There are 25 hertz in a regular piano, for example, that differentiates between the two, what is called a semitone. So so a note is not the same thing as a frequency. The note name of a frequency on a piano, it's around 261 hertz, but if I give you a tuning fork, it's usually around 256. So that can vary a lot too. So focusing just on one frequency is very unique. Let me see what else I have written here that I can share with you. Yes. The chakras, our dear friends, the chakras. I have made some wonderful recordings I'm really, proud of, called Chakra Chants. It uses a certain, it's called a C major scale, a C major diatonic scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, which is wonderful. But this is a metaphor. And, thousands or millions of people may work with this, and this is great. And it's great as a thought form construct. But I'd just like to say that in our book, Chakra Frequencies, Andi and I present 6 different ways of resonating the chakras, and one of them is called a monotone, which means just one note. In fact, in the Hindu tradition, when you work with Bija mantras, you work chanting them on each of them on the same note, and yet it seems to work with the chakras. And speaking of the chakras, we have the fabulous Healing Sounds Correspondence course, which is mostly a vocally oriented course that lasts for just a number of months, and people really have to really work on this and check themselves out as their own sound laboratory. And oftentimes will work, particularly with working with the vowel sounds, to resonate the chakras. And we've had some very scientifically oriented people who will feel the resonance and then tone into a tuner to find out the frequencies. What they found, and a lot of people do this, is that depending upon the time of day and the activity and what they've been doing before then, the vibratory field of their chakra will differ from day to day. So this is just another thing to just think of. And I have hours of doing this, friends. I have all this stuff, and I guess I won't get into doing it today because it's going to be time soon to bring on my wonderful wife, Andi, who's going to be talking a little bit about sound astrology and a little bit about the wonderful energies of this equinox. But I think the major, if you like, takeaway from the fact that we are all unique vibratory beings is, number one, to honor ourselves, and also to understand that our voice, for example, is replete with what are called harmonics. My book Healing Sounds is having its 30th anniversary in a couple of weeks, and I'm really very proud of this. And the fact is that harmonics is a topic that I will deal with much more at some point because it's so very, very important. But the idea that there are not single tone frequencies really that exist in nature, they're really composite frequencies that are mathematically interrelated. Talked about this before, harmonics, and these harmonics are responsible for the tone color of sound. And here's the thing. Every person's voice is unique and different. Every person's voice is unique as a fingerprint, and this is because the harmonics and what is called the formants of their voice are basically different, and that causes a voice print. And if our voice is different, and therefore the vibratory rate that our voice encompasses, why wouldn't we totally be different? Last thought. There's a wonderful doctor by the name of Alfred Tomatis, who basically was a brilliant otolaryngologist who worked with the ear. And he liked to talk about the sound as being a nutrient to the brain and a nutrient to our nervous system. And I'd like to suggest that it is a nutrient for our soul. And as it is a nutrient for our soul, the more unique and different sounds that we can begin to vibrate and resonate with and learn to resonate with, the better it will be. It will, if you like, enhance our evolutionary consciousness by being able to basically encode different frequencies and different sounds. If we can learn to resonate to different frequencies and different sounds, then we are, if you like, traveling on the sound current, expanding our consciousness, and are expanding our state of being. How cool is that? And with that in mind, I now would love to bring my wife, Andi, on. So Andi, I'm going to move the chair over and come on over.
Right.
As you can see, this is high tech.
High tech. Here we go. Let's see. Thanks, Jonathan.
All right, great.
Well, hello to everyone here on this beautiful energy of the equinox. And speaking of that, we are all unique vibratory beings. Jonathan asked me if I would speak just a little bit about the aspect of astrology, because it is, I'm going to be talking about the equinox, but when we talk about we are unique vibratory beings, it's so interesting because people know their sun sign. That's the sign of the zodiac, the month that you were born, and we are not just our sun sign. And this sort of speaks to what Jonathan was talking about with we are all unique. And so we know that in astrology, we are not just our sun sign. My goodness, there are 12 signs of the zodiac. When you cast a chart, there are 12 sections of the chart. And within that chart, we have 8 planets, plus we have the sun and the moon. And all of those planets are making aspects to each other. And so, boy, when we were talking about we are all unique vibratory beings, the metaphor of astrology was really, and particularly on the equinox, was really a good metaphor to bring to our consciousness tonight.
Sweetheart, that is, it is, I don't know astrology, but I understand on a level, the aspect of different planetary configurations having different vibrational aspects. And I actually have studied this a little bit, and I think this might make an interesting satsang sometime. How does one work sonically with an astrological course?
Well,
So
that that might not be a bad idea. But it's interesting because we talk about, there's not a frequency, there's not just one frequency of, whatever. There's not a frequency of one frequency, for instance, of love. There's many frequencies. There's not one frequency of anger or any emotion that we have. It's always a composite of many, many frequencies, and we are a composite of all of these frequencies that are signified in an astrological chart. But more than that, what I really want to talk about tonight, because we are in the energy of the equinox. The fall equinox actually occurred precisely at 9:04 p.m. Eastern time. And so we are here in Colorado. That was 7 o'clock.
about an hour and a half ago.
Hour and a half ago. And of course, this is in the Northern Hemisphere. In the Southern Hemisphere, it's the season of the spring. But the equinox lets us know that there is equal day, equal night on at this time. And so what that brings to mind is balance. And the equinox gives us an opportunity to think about our own lives, and are we in balance with our spirits, our souls, our nature? Are we out of balance? Are there things that we can do to shift our balance, to bring ourselves more into balance? And that's really, from my perspective, that's really the beauty of the changing of the seasons, because it really does give us an opportunity to reflect and to pause and to look at our lives. And we're now coming into the fall. We're coming out of the summer, which is a very different energy. And as we're entering the fall, we begin to see that nature is beginning to take a turn inward. And, it's really lovely because nature supports us. As nature is taking that turn inward, that gives us an opportunity to also take a turn inward and to look at our lives, look at the blessings that have happened in our lives, in recent months or this past year. And always so important, no matter looking at the blessings, looking at the challenges, whatever has happened recently or this year, to always give thanks and appreciation and gratitude for whatever has happened in our lives. And that's really the beauty of, I think, the changing of the seasons. And of course, in ancient times, and probably even now too, the fall was the time of the harvest. And it was the time to harvest the food, bring in all the, potatoes, apples, and get prepared for the winter. And as we think about this time of the harvest, let us prepare internally for now until the end of the year. Let us utilize this time in that preparation.
Beautiful. We're going to be doing a guided global Om shortly, but I think that maybe we'll just hit the bowl for a second. Everybody can take a nice deep breath, and perhaps, what would you suggest, Andi?
Well, as nature gives us that beautiful opportunity to support us, and nature's beginning to go inward, why don't we focus on going inside? What is it we want to shift and change? How do we want to prepare for these upcoming months? How do we want to give our thanksgiving and our gratitude for our blessings?
So I'll hit this bowl, and then Garth, man behind the curtain, if you would bring up the music in about 30 seconds. So let's go within. Take a breath. And then focus our energy for use for personal and planetary healing.
Honoring this time of the equinox. The purpose for this meditation is to project a sound encoded with the energies of light and love, and project healing to the Gaia matrix, our beloved planet Earth. We will first create coherence between our heart and our brain. This effect will further be amplified by the power of the Om that you will be toning along with later, bringing more light and love into your body, mind, and spirit for health and wellness. And now, begin to focus on your breathing. Breathing in and breathing out. Slowly breathing in and out. And as you're breathing in and out, imagine or visualize that you're breathing in and out through your heart. As you're breathing in and out through the area of your heart, remembering that it is love that breathes each breath, and it is love that causes each beat of our heart. Continue breathing slowly, breathing in and out in this manner. And now, I'd like you to call to mind something that has brought you a great deal of appreciation, gratitude, something that you are feeling very good about. This might be an experience with another person. Perhaps it's a beautiful sunset. It may be a beloved pet, a spouse. But it is something that has brought you loving kindness and gratitude and appreciation. And as you're breathing in and out through your heart, feeling this appreciation, feeling this gratitude, you're creating a beautiful coherence between your heart and your brain. And your heart, through this coherence, is expanding, getting larger and larger, and connecting with all the heart and loving energy on our planet in this moment. This is just a wonderful way of creating a very powerful heart activation, and you'll be amplifying this with the sound of the Om. Continue breathing slowly and deeply while feeling appreciation and gratitude, and imagining your breath going in and out through your heart. Now, visualize this energy and begin to sense a radiant light around you that is permeating every cell of your body and resonating your heart chakra. In a moment, we'll begin to gently sound forth with the power of the Om. And as you do this, visualize the planet Earth as a holographic image floating in front of you. Imagine bathing the Earth in a healing field of light and love that you are creating through your sacred sound. Now, let us begin to make the heart sound of the Om, bringing the energy of global harmonization, peace and healing to our beloved planet, Earth. one last time. in silence, visualizing all the light and love through sound that you have manifested, resonating and bringing to Earth and yourself to a deep state of healing. And when you feel ready, open your eyes and know that you have contributed to personal and planetary healing.
Well, I trust that was a powerful autumnal equinox global guided Om for everyone. It was very, very much for me. Andi, how'd you
Oh,
like that?
it's lovely. And to do it on the energy of the equinox, it just felt even more, it felt deeper.
And may we indeed be able to just shift our frequencies and raise our vibratory field and the vibratory field of our entire planet, all the sentient beings. May they rise up in consciousness to really begin to embrace the energy of compassion for all of us, because it's so very, very important to just be compassionate toward other people. They may have different frequencies than we do. Let's accept them, let's honor them, let's love them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, my dear. So
So,
we have, we collect questions that are sent to info@healingsounds during the month, and then pick one or two that might be the most appropriate to be answered for this thing. And I'm unable to right now get the questions from the fabulous audience that we have, but thank you so much. And I trust this one will be of
I've
kind
got
of of interest, because it's one that really resonates with this whole concept of being unique vibratory fields. And Andi, the question.
And the question is, Jonathan, the question, first of all, let me say that it is from a lovely person named Christopher from San Francisco. And so thank you, Christopher, for this question. He says, many teachers suggest that we are born and die and incarnate again on the same waveform or ray. Do you think this is true? Can we shift frequencies? Or are we forever trapped? Jonathan, can you answer that question?
Well, that's a great one. I did cherry pick it as a question, and I gave it to you, and kind of put it out of my mind until this moment to see how I'd respond, because it feels very appropriate coming into the concept of we're all, vibratory beings that are unique, Once again, this is mostly just this if you like, teaching was mostly based upon my own experience, but I literally had pages and pages of other people's work talking about this. Actually, to the degree, I found a quote from Nikola Tesla from the New York Times, July 14th, 1931. He said, "We are just waves in time and space, changing continuously." So, Nikola, I'm with you on that one. So the idea of us being born and continuing to incarnate on the same waveform, whether you call it a color or a ray or whatnot, it's really interesting, and that's certainly predominant in certain spiritual traditions, in certain spiritual paths. And I really, really will honor that. But I would say for myself, it feels as though such a belief system, and this would only be kind of a belief system, it's almost like, as someone suggested, a sonic caste system, where you're like doomed to incarnate forever as a blue ray or as a red ray or whatever. And it doesn't give us a lot of room for shift and change and evolutionary shift and change. And, I like to say that I'm all about shifting frequencies and learning to use sound, and particularly our own voice, to resonate to different fields of energy, and to learn to use sound to create different fields of energy that we can be in. And I'm just thinking now that for example, Tibetan monks will be doing these different mantric practices when they pass over, just so they can ensure a higher level of, and that's just a belief system, of course, but the idea is that, you can do good and be good, and you can work with sound, mantra, visualization to, if you like, shift and change your frequency so that you are not really stuck in one place. I think the idea of believing that you're stuck in this waveform, this ray, whatever you want to call it, it's okay. And if you want to believe that, blessed be. But if you are concerned that perhaps you'd like to ray hop, as I call it, and go from blue to violet or whatnot, that there is the possibility that you can do this, that we can learn to be fluid beings. I've mentioned this before, but we can learn to be fluid beings that can shift and change. We can take a lesson from the fabulous shaft of wheat that bends in the wind, as opposed to the stiff board that breaks. If we can learn to embrace fluidity through understanding that we are all unique, and that our uniqueness may be based on many things, and this uniqueness unto itself, unto one lifetime, can probably shift and change, then probably this uniqueness can also incorporate going through different lives, if that is in your belief system and whatnot. And you have any thoughts on that, Andi?
Well, I'm just thinking of, just talking about astrology and how, it's almost like a spiritual thumbprint of that soul in that lifetime, because you cast that chart for the first breath of that being, and each lifetime it's going to be very different.
Yes.
And so it's going to be a very different chart. But that's, just one of the thoughts that I had, because I do feel that we are constantly expanding and growing. And I mean,
yeah. And I'm very, very big into vibratory fields, into sacred sonic vibratory fields, and then we can create these through crystal bowls, Tibetan bowls, instruments and whatnot, but mostly with our voice. We can shift and change and use this to basically attune ourselves to different vibrations. Let's say you're walking around, you find yourself in a place where you're being exposed to different frequencies that seem not to be resonating well with you. You can use your voice to literally shift your frequencies, become either more out of phase with whatever's bothering you or more in phase with whatever's bothering you, and basically put yourself in balance and alignment. So that's just a thought, and once again, learning to use our voice, and it doesn't have to be developing an operatic voice. We can just do it with humming or a mantra or just a different tone, an ah or an o or whatever feels good, an om, but we can learn to use our voice to shift our frequencies, which is mandatory from my perspective in this incredible time of shift and change that is happening on this planet. We really need to be fluid, and we need to learn to use our own sounds to achieve this fluidity.
Absolutely. And in being fluid, I wish that we had time for another question. And I'm looking at our time and we don't. And so I want to take this moment to once again just say thank you so much to all the people who have joined us tonight for the celebration for this equinox Sound Satsang. And I want a special thank you to Humanity's team
And to Garth.
for supporting us, and of course to our own Nasiri, who is the director of the Sound Healers Association. And I just want to mention that if you're not a member, she is just more than happy to answer any of your questions. And, feel free to visit soundhealersassociation.com and .org. And also thank you to Alec.
And listen, if I noticed some people had their hands raised for questions, send those questions to info@healingsounds.com, and please, because that'd be great. Love to see them, and also perhaps we'll answer them at another time. It's so important. This is just wondrous to have you all. So we are so very, very grateful. And as we take off, we invite you to come next month. The date is October 25th, which is going to be after the wonderful Humanities Team Global Oneness Summit, the day after. And we'll be dealing with obviously an important aspect of light, sound, and love. And we trust we'll be taking you with us. So thank you very, very much. And thank you, Andi.
And thank you, Jonathan.
Hey,
and
happy equinox.
Happy equinox, and many blessings of love and light through sound to everyone who is watching this and with us tonight, and who may have a chance to watch it at another time. Just lots and lots of love. Thank you very, very much.
We heal the planet.
We heal ourselves.
We heal ourselves.
We heal the planet.
We can make a difference.
Keep that love and gratitude always in our hearts. Bye-bye.